everybody, Bandit here. Welcome back to the channel. We're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And for today's flight, we're going to take our second look at the initial avionics aircraft update to beta release. And again, we're going to focus on the 787. For today's trip, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do some circuits, and we'll try some holds and missed approaches, and we'll finish off with a CAT3 ILS approach. So we're here in beautiful New Zealand, and we're in the Air New Zealand livery. And yeah, so let's get things going. We're just going to be taking off runway 5 right here in New Zealand, and then we're going to be doing the SID, and it's just runway heading, and we're going to go up to 6,000 feet. So we're going to be tracking up there off of runway 5. And then we're going to go right into an RNAV RNP approach, and so it'll be a left downwind. We'll go to Virus. We'll do a hold at Virus, and then we'll do the approach. Then we'll do a missed approach, and then from there we'll come around for DME arc to the ILS onto runway 5. Okay, so that's the plan for today's trip. So yeah, without further ado, let's hop in the cockpit and get things fired up and get doing some circuits. Not something you do very often in airliners. Now with the modern level D sims we have, we don't do this kind of stuff anymore. It's been a long time since you get to take an airliner up for some circuits for training. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, we're here in the cockpit. Let's get some battery power on. We'll get our external power, and as I said in the last video, they're all available here, but 99.9% of the time you're just going to use the forward external power receptacles. You're not going to use the aft. Okay, we got some power to the airplane, and we'll get the IRSs on, get our APU started. That caution. And we'll check our fuel status. Fuel, we have pretty good, 3,300 pounds of fuel. That should be lots for today's circuits. That's only about 15%. Status, you can see the APU firing up. Hydraulic levels are all good. Liquid cooling levels are good. Oxygen level is good. You'll see status messages appear here. They're probably not going to be simulated, but if you had, say, an ACC disabled by maintenance, and you would see that status message show up here. Okay, I think we got a good APU. Okay, the APU is running, so let's get our APU generators on. Can lose that external power. And let's go to the overhead and make sure we got everything configured. So IRSs are on, that looks good. So on your electrical panel here, you want to just make sure everything is on. So your battery's on, your cabin utility and entertainment's on, seat power. APU is on right now. These are available, so they're off. We're not using them anymore. Just make sure all your AC generators are in the on position. They're all off now because they want to engage so the engine runs. We go overhead, we turn the door power on, Mercedes lights armed, window heat, yeah, so you turn all 4 of these, they would all be off, you turn all 4 on. Got a ram air turbines, not simulated. Hydraulics on the ground, you turn on these. Before start, you turn on the remainder electric pumps. So these are your engine driven pumps, and they're your primary pumps. And then you have 4 electric driven pumps, and they're all off. Just prior to start, you turn them on. Your seatbelt's on. Set up your lighting as required. Back up over here. None of the tests are simulated. Engine start levers are in norm. Start switches are in norm. Fuel jettison, you check in. Fuel pressure, they're all off right now. So got low pressure on here. We have no fuel in the center pump, so they would be off. You see the aft left pump is not showing pressure light. That's because it automatically activates for the APU when you turn the APU on. Okay, we come down to our anti-ice. We can turn these to auto. And if we have icing conditions, then when we get the engines going, we'll turn them on the ground. Otherwise, they'll just stay in auto. Get our nav lights on. Our main of our lights are good. Come up to our cargo. That's an auto. I don't think any of this is... Oh, just a temperature, I guess you can set. Okay. It's good. It's not... can't select that. We can get our other recirc fan on. Sorry, both recirc fans on. Packs are on. Trim air is on. I don't think... Oh yeah, you can turn these off. Okay. Relations is normal. Okay, pressurization panel is auto. That looks good. So that's our overhead panel, all ready to go. Ready for the start there. For today's flight, we will get our heading, and the initial heading is going to be 051. And we're just going to climb runway heading to 6,000 feet. Okay, that looks good. Get our flight directors on, arm the out throttles, and we'll come down here and we'll get our panel set up. I'm just going to get rid of the yoke here. Okay, we will go to our position. So it's automatically taken the GPS position and done the INET for the you can enter it in if you right after you turn on the IRSs, you can enter it in manually, but it'll automatically do it for you. Okay, so we'll go to route, and when you're doing circuits, all you got to do is put in departure, and so it'll be NZAA, and arrival will be NZAA. So we're just staying here in the circuit. And we'll call ourselves Air New Zealand 123. And we're going to be taking off of 05 right. I think I mentioned this before in a video. There's only one runway here. I think they're planning on building another one. That's why they call this one 5 right. Okay, we can activate and execute that. Departure, we're just doing runway heading to 6,000, so we don't need to enter a departure, but we can put in our first approach. So we'll go back to the index, arrival. And one thing I just wanted to mention about the departures, if you do go back to select a departure, it's not modeled on here, but when you select your runway, a lot of times if there's an ILS on that runway, you could do ILS high takeoff, and that's for low-vis departure, so it uses the ILS for HUD cues for the departure, but that doesn't seem to be modeled in here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. So we'll go back and we'll load in our approach. And the first approach we're going to do is the RNAV X-ray on 5, and there's no transition, so we'll just execute that. Clear message. And if you clear the message on one side, you should be able to clear it on both sides. It's kind of annoying because the speed brake handle is in the way. It's the same message, so I don't know why you have to clear it off both, but okay, we'll go back to the legs. We'll check our waypoints. So for the first approach, we got virus. I'll just bring it up here. So we got virus 6,000 or above. SATOS, that looks good, 4810. CUNA at 3950. LAML. And Iboki and the runway, and then we got our missed approach to MRAG, so those were all good. So that approach is loaded, and you can see it there on the nav display. Okay, there's no hold published at MRAG, but we'll have to enter that in manually there. Okay, so that's our legs. Now we can go to the Perfinet. We can put in our cruise altitude. We're just going to be going up to 6,000 feet. Cost index, we'll just put in 50 for today's flight. Doesn't really matter. Zero fuel weight, that comes from the sim. Reserves, we'll say 10,000 pounds for reserves. And CAG, we can just get that from the sim. We can execute that. For our takeoff page, we'll do reduce takeoff, TO1, transition to a climb 1. Just do a flaps 5, not very heavy. We'll do assume temperature of 35 degrees. Get our CAG from the sim, and that looks good. I'm not sure if you can put in a runway 5 right from, no, that's, none of these are available, so these aren't available if they're in blue. We'll get our speeds over there, that comes from the sim, and yeah, so that's good. Trim 3.5, might as well set that while we're here. Again, that should be, 3.5 should be displayed in the magenta here to show you what to set on your green. So that's right at the top of the green band. So trim is set, we'll set V2 of 148. Okay, so that all looks good. We'll put our auto brake in RTO. We'll set up our transponder. And again, on the transponder page here, you can put the code in, but you can't select any of these items here. So we'll put in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you turn it on here. So we're going to push back here. So I'll put it in on already. Back to VHF. We can get the ATIS just to double check, make sure we're on the right runway. The ATIS is 1270. 1270. Now, if I recall, you don't have to put the decimal place in on the real airplane, but I could be wrong. 127.0. Just transfer that over.
Auckland Airport information, Oscar 2100 Zulu. Wind 100 F4. Visibility 6. Sky condition 1,800 feet, scattered 4,800 feet scattered. Temperature 12. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.0 tree.
3003.
Runway 5 right in use. Landing and departing runway 5 right. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact, you have Oscar.
Okay, so 3003, they're using 5 right. That looks good. Okay, I think we're ready to do our first checklist, so we can just do it up here. We can call up the checklist. So battery switch is on. Turn those power switches, they're on, but we've shut them off now. APU is on, started then on. LED generators are on. Emergency exit lights are closed. Nav lights on. Logo light, we got it off. Flight director switches are on. Seatbelt selector is on. Transponder panel is set. Now before start, we got our auto throttle switches armed. We got our takeoff speed set. Our trim is set. Altimeter is set. Taxi and takeoff briefing, so we're just taxiing out for 5 right and climbing runway heading to 6,000 feet. And we'll get our beacon light on. So the pre-start checklist is complete. Let's get set up for our pushback. Hopefully the toolbar pushback is working a little bit better today, so we can get rid of the jetway and pre-plan our pushback.
Cockpit to ground. This is ground. Stand by.
Should be working a little bit better today. Okay, so captain would call for the before before start checklist, or the before start flows. And then so turn on the electric pumps. I'll go to auto. Get all your fuel pumps on. In this case, there's no center fuel, so we don't need that. And then we're ready to start as soon as we're clear to start. And you run the before start checklist, and
Okay,
then
sir. The bypass pin is installed.
go ahead with the
all
start.
All doors and hatches closed, and all ground equipment is removed.
We are cleared for start and push.
Okay, cleared for push start. Please release parking brake.
Okay, release the parking
Parking
brake.
brakes are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
So we'll just take a look at our ICAS here. So engine shutdown, yeah, oil temperature, hydraulics, because the engines aren't running, and fuel pressure. So those are all normal. Doors auto, that's good. The doors are all been closed and armed. Steering lockout because we're pushing back. Auto brake RTO, seatbelts on, APU running. So that's all normal CAS messages. You can do a recall too. Get recall, and there's nothing but the those items. So that's good. So we're clear to start. You can start both engines at the same time. So we'll just go start on both engines, and then fuel selectors on both engines, and we'll just monitor the start. Auto start. Yeah, sure is a nice feature being able to start both these engines at the same time. It's kind of like the Max. The Max takes a long time to start with those new high bypass turbofans, and these do too. And yeah, it's nice that you can start them both at the same time. Saves a lot of time. Okay, everything looks good. See the
Okay,
EGTs
pushback
going down.
completed. Please set your parking brake.
Set the parking brake.
Parking brake set.
And you can see running on both
Startup
engines.
is complete. You may disconnect.
Roger. Good engine start. Clear to disconnect. See you at the side. Have a good flight.
Okay, so
Holding
we'll
position,
do our
waiting for the
flow.
visual. Thank you and goodbye.
So we'll shut off the APU. Packs are still in auto, and it shows off right now, but as soon as they've done making their switches to the from the APU, they'll extinguish there. Okay, so check our lights are all good. Like we need engine anti-ice, we don't need it on. Get our flaps set for 5. That looks good. Go down to our checklist. So APU is off. Speed brake lever, we do not arm it. That's not correct. Auto brake is RTO. Flaps are set for takeoff. And taxi light will go on when we start to taxi. So that is our checklist. So we'll taxi on out for runway 5. So it's a bit of a taxi. I'll check in with you just when we get closer to the button, and we'll go from there. Okay, we're just holding short of runway 5 right. Pop back in the cockpit here, and we'll just do the rest of our pre-flight. So I set up the autopilot. I've got heading select, so I just select heading select by pushing the heading. I engage flight level change and then arm VNAV. And we're going to be initially flight level change. VNAV will be armed. And I can't really comment on, this is your thrust mode here, and it's not the same that I'm used to. When I flew this plane, I flew with the GE engines, and this is modeled on the Rolls-Royce Trent engines. So I'm not seeing the same indications here for the thrust mode. So I'll just assume that they're correct. Everything else I've seen is pretty good, so in terms of the FMA, but the thrust modes are different than what I'm used to. Okay, so we'll do our flight control, so we can go to our system page here, check our flight controls. We'll check full forward, full back, full left, full right, and the rudder is good. Our trims are set, rudder 0 and trim set and in the green, so flight controls are good. We've got our autopilot set, Nothing on the caution except for parking brake, which I'll release. Doors, auto brake RTO, seatbelts on. That's good. I'll just do a recall. So you see recall pop up and then nothing shows up in the cast there, so that's all correct. So let's do our before takeoff checklist. So flight controls are checked. VNAV is on the climb page, so we put one of these on the climb page. Usually it's on the side of the flying pilot. Engine anti-ice is set to auto. Strobe lights, we'll turn those on. We'll get the landing lights on. Taxi light off. And transponder is TRA, so that's before takeoff checklist complete. And we'll just go back to our ND on this display. So we're good to go. It's clear to the left, clear to the right. Release the parking brake, and we'll taxi on out. So when I taxi out, I'll hit toga, and then that should change the thrust mode on the FMA. Again, I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm used to seeing N1 for the GE engines, but I think it says thrust ref, this aircraft configuration. So that could be correct. I'm not 100% sure. Get lined up. We'll also take a good look at the HUD today too when we do the approaches, especially the ILS approach. Okay, we're lying, runway heading looks good. Gonna bring the power up. Advance thrust levers, hit toga. You see thrust ref pop up on the FMA here. Thrust is set. There's 80 knots. Funny little jump there when you get airborne. Positive rate, gears up. Pretty light, so pretty good climb. Gauge the autopilot. Autopilot's a gauge, heading select, it's transferred over to VNAV. So 1,500 feet, we should have our speed bug up for us there, which it already has. So we'll let the speed accelerate. We're in heading select, that looks good. Okay, above flaps 5, we'll select flaps 1. And above flaps 1, speed, flaps are selected up. And 240 is a good speed, we'll take that for our VNAV speed. Switch it if you want to open the speed window. You can just press it, open the speed window, and set what you want. Or you can go flight level change and set what you want. 240 is pretty good initially. That's 5,000 per 6,000. And let's get our after takeoff checklists. So checklists. Landing gear is up. Flaps are up. Wing anti-ice will leave in auto. Spoilers, they're down because they're supposed to be down. That's our after takeoff checklist complete. Back to the ND over here. Okay, so we're just in heading select alt hold. And what I'll do is we'll transfer this over to the other side and we'll take the full ND on our side and then we can have a bigger picture for so there's the approach. So we're just going to go downwind and then what I'm going to do start off is enter a hold at virus till we set up for the approach. So right now we're not tracking anything. We have nothing in our track. Virus is a discontinuity, and then virus is the initial fix for the approach. So looks good there. So we can set up a hold. Drag required. See, when you have the same message on both sides, they should clear from both sides. It's kind of a pain you have to do it, especially with that speed brake in the way. Okay, you notice the auto brake is automatically shut off. That's normal too. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, we'll leave the seatbelt signs on, and so let's do a hold at virus here. So go to the hold page, And we'll take the hold, next hold at virus. And if we look at the approach, we can just hold inbound 231. So we'll just do a standard right-hand racetrack 1 minute hold on 231 inbound. So we want an inbound of 231. Right-hand turns, it'll be 1 minute timings, and none of these are active. You can't set anything. You can only set things on, when these are cyan, you cannot set them. They're not available to use as switches. So we'll take that. Normally you can put in your altitude here and your expect further clearance time, but those aren't modeled. Best speed is 220 knots. So we'll just execute that for now. And you see we're not going anywhere. We still have the discontinuity. So we go back to the legs page, we still have a discontinuity. We have virus with a hold at virus. And yeah, so we can kind of heading selected in that general direction. So I'll just, heading selected around a little bit, kind of head in that general direction. Yeah, beautiful day here in New Zealand. So we're doing an RNP approach, and there's something a little bit different than how I've done them in the 787 before. I'll talk about that. My last video, I did that IAN approach on the straight-in RNAV, and you're not supposed to, well, we weren't able to do IAN approaches on RNP approaches with a radius to fixed turn. Yeah, I'll just keep the heading coming around. Kind of head towards virus. So let's say we're cleared to that hold. We're cleared virus to hold us as directed. So I just bring virus, first virus up to the thing, and we see our planned route there, and I just hit execute, and then I just go to LNAV. LNAV is active, and we're tracking into virus with the hold at virus ready to go. Max holding speed at this altitude would be about 230 knots, so we can go to our bug up speed, or we can just go to 230. So we'll hold at 230. So I'll just dial that speed back a little bit to 230 knots. And yeah, we should be good. If your bug up speed was above that, you just have to tell ATC you need to hold above your max holding speed for that altitude. Don't really want to hold with flaps if you can avoid it. It's less than ideal. Unwanted drag, waste fuel, and usually if you're holding, you need to save as much fuel as you can. Okay, so the hold looks like it's set up. It's going to work out pretty good. So I'll just check in with you. We got a few miles to run. I'll check in with you right when we're entering the hold, and we won't do a full loop of the hold. I'll exit the hold around here, and then we'll just go right into the approach. Actually, why don't I briefly approach while we're waiting to enter the hold. So when I flew the Dreamliner on these radius to fix approaches, RNP approaches, where they have these radius to fix turns to the FAF, you had to do them in LNAV VNAV. You couldn't use the IAN approach, so you couldn't ARM approach. But that doesn't work in here because then what you have to do when you hit 1,000 feet, you have to. And so you set field initially to get the approach going. Once you're at 1,000 feet, you have to reset your missed approach altitude, which is 3,000 feet. But as soon as I do that in LNAV VNAV, the aircraft levels off at whatever altitude it captured when I bring the increase the altitude. So, but for some reason I'm able 2 miles back before the FAF, so Lamo's the FAF, 2 miles back before the FAF, I'm able to arm the approach and get final approach course and glide path, enunciate it. So that's different than what I'm used to, but it seems to work anyway. That's what we're going to do today. So we're just coming into the hold. So we're going to do the approach. We're going to follow these altitudes. So I'm going to, when I hit virus, I'm going to make sure I'm in VNAV. I'm going to select the airport touchdown zone elevation in my altitude selector. Then we're just flying LNAV VNAV until we get a couple miles back from the FAF. And And then we're going to arm the approach and then fly the approach down to minimums. Published missed approach is track straight ahead to MRAG. So that's what we're going to do for the RNP approach. A little different than how I'm used to flying them, so I'm not sure if that's something different with the aircraft with these engine models, or if it's not modeled correctly. But we're coming into the hold, so it's going to enter the hold. And I'm not going to fly the full hold. It does a pretty good job of flying the entire hold. And you can enter a hold anywhere you want, any fix you want. Seems to work pretty good. Publish, you'll see when we do the missed approach, and I'll load the publish hold for MRAG. It's in there. It's not in there right now, but when we load it up, it'll be, publish hold will be there. Yeah, so it does a pretty good job. Slew my heading around. So real quick, let's get the thing set up for the approach. Ooh, we're getting a little bit of weather here. So we verify the waypoints and altitudes. We'll go to our init ref. We'll set our ref 30 speed. We'll put it on auto brake 2, should be good. Back to the legs page here, and yeah, let's do our descent checklist. So checklist. And we'll go descent checklist. So auto brake selector is set, anti-ice is good, altimeter is still set, that's good. And we'll do our approach checklist. Landing light is still on, seatbelts are still on, so that's good. Next will be our landing checklist. Okay, so if I want to exit the hold here, I would just hit exit the hold, and the plane should automatically fly the shortest route back to Virus, which would be keeping this turn going. But it doesn't do that. If I hit exit hold, it's going to have cancel exit, and it will fly this entire hold back to Virus, and then it will just continue on. So that's kind of not modeled correctly the way I'm used to it. But you can kind of do that yourself. All you got to do is just go Virus direct, and you see how it draws in the planned route there, and I just execute that, and that gets rid of the hold and takes us direct to Virus, the shortest route. So there's a way around that. Works pretty good. So now that we're inbound to Virus, the min sector for this approach for the side that we're on is 2,800 feet. Might be pretty close to that, so I want to make sure I have VNAV. Right now we're in LNAV, which is what we need for the approach, and we're in alt hold, but we need to be in VNAV as we cross this fix, so that we can fly LNAV, VNAV down to the field elevation, and then to get the descent going. So what I'll do is I can put in a lower altitude, so I'll put in min sector for now, 23,000 feet is good, and I'll arm VNAV. And you see we're on VNAV path. And then once we're by this fix, I can throw in field elevation, and then we can continue along the approach. Might as well start slowing down a little bit too, so I'll get flaps 1 out. My speed window, or flaps 5 out, sorry, speed window is open, so I'll just, oh no, sorry, it's automatic, we're in VNAV, so it goes back to my flap 5 bug, which is correct. Yeah, we'll just maintain flaps 5. So I have no path information yet until I hit Virus. It should populate, and then we should see our path, because the altitude for Virus is at 6,000 feet, max 210 knots. So we're already slowed down. We're at 6,000 feet. As soon as we cross Virus, our path should populate. We should see our path show up on our flight path deviation. So everything looks good. There we go. So the path shows up. We start in our descent. We're by the thing, and I can set field, which is pretty much 0 feet. And yeah, so now we'll fly this approach. Yeah, beautiful scenery here in New Zealand. Hop outside, take a quick look. Okay, while we're here, we can flip the HUD down. Kind of bring that into our view. And yeah, the HUD, normally you fly with the HUD down for all some airlines is below 10,000 feet. Some airlines, they want you to have it down all the time, depending on your airline's SOPs. But yeah, the HUD information, you get basically all your PFD information up here. And we'll talk a bit more about it when we have the ILS selected, but it's definitely nice to have. So we're an LNAV, VNAV path. Everything's looking good. Just double check. So we're coming up to our next waypoint. Will be 3950. We'll be crossing at Kuina. I'm going to set my heading on runway heading for now. 051. And the HUD brightness works. You can pull out the knob here. There's a way to pull this out. Did pull it out. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Increase your HUD brightness. Might have been full bright anyway. It was in auto mode. Yeah, so while we're maybe finishing up here, I'll just point out a few things. So we have our speed tape. It's normal information, ground speed, altitude, vertical speed here. We have our course deviation and our vertical path deviation over here. We have our heading, compass rose. This is your flight path vector, the one with the wings, and your flight director, which is this indication, is that the little circle. So you're always trying to put the donut in the hole, I say, to fly a perfect path. So you see the planes always trying to put the flight director into the flight path vector. So it's looking pretty good. You've got here, this is your speed trend. So you can see we're a little fast. We have bugged at 180 and we're a little fast. So we're speeding up there. So I'm going to put some more flap out. Flap 10. And now you can see we're really fast. So the throttle, this is your throttle thrust indication. So your thrust has come way down to try to correct for this speed exceedance here. Okay, we got our throttle there. Gonna put the gear down. Go to flaps 20. And it's automatically bugging your speed here. It should go to flaps 20 for us. And we're coming up to Lamo, so let's try to arm the approach. So it arms, we got final approach course and glide path. And like I said, normally on these RNP approaches with the fixed turns, you don't use this, but otherwise it doesn't work for this approach here, so that's good. Let's go flap 30, and it should set our ref speed of 5 knots above, so it should set 143. And you can see 143 is set, and let's do our checklist for landing. So we go to our checklist, and we got landing gear down. Speed brake lever will arm it. Okay, speed brake is armed, and flaps are set. So our landing checklist complete. Okay, 1,000 feet. So you need to set your misapproach altitude now. So we'll put in 3,000 feet. And it should continue on that captured glide path and final approach course fix. So now we're coming in, everything's looking good. I didn't put our minimums because it's visual, but the minimums are 350 feet. So that's where we'll do a missed approach. So when you do the missed approach, I have a button simulated on my throttle, which is your toga button here. So you're gonna press toga. So you're going to go around, you're going to call for go around thrust. You should see go around. Now, again, this is not correct. Normally I used to see go around here, and you can see go around mode is armed up here. So that's the thrust mode is set. And then we'll set flaps 20, and then positive rate, we'll get the gear up. And then we should see toga up here as well. So it's looking pretty good. You can see our flight path vector is going right for the button the runway. So we're coming up to minimums. So I'm going to hit toga, go around thrust, flaps 20. Positive rate, gears up. Okay, so you see we have toga. It's automatically gone to LNAV for the misapproach, and thrust, I'm assuming that's the right FMA for the thrust. So it looks good. And we're at our, just above our rep speed here, which is fine, rep plus 20, plus 10. So it's climbing away nicely. And I'm assuming at 1,500 feet, it should automatically, or I might have to switch the pitch mode here, so I can either go back to VNAV, so we'll go to VNAV speed, and then above 1,500 feet, it should bug up for us. That's 2,000 for 3,000, and not sure why it's not bugging up, but it should. Maybe I have to start raising some flaps. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think it's just not bugging up fast enough there. So you can open the speed window, dial it up yourself. Because you want to wait, because we're at flaps 5 now, you want to wait till you're above flap 5 before you select the, so I'm going to take it right up to 220. Okay, so flaps 1. And flaps up. So we got speed, VNAV path, LNAV, that looks good. And we're coming up to MRAG, but there's no hold built there, and the published hold is basically inbound track of 231 and right-hand turn. So let's go set that up real quick. Go drag required, and then we'll do our post-takeoff check. So we got a hold. We're gonna next hold. We're gonna hold at MRAG, and you can see no, it's not the published hold, it's got our inbound, so we need to put it in ourselves. So 2, 2, 3, 1, and yep, right hand turns, that looks good. 1 minute, we'll execute that, and there's our hold at MRAG. And this is going to be a offset entry, so it'll come in, it'll turn right, come back around, and then it'll do the right hand turns. Okay. So that's the go around. We'll enter the hold, and now we'll set up for the ILS approach. I'll bring the weather down to 00. They don't have a CAT3 ILS as far as I can tell in here, but we'll do it to CAT3 minimums. All I see is CAT1 on here, so we'll do it to CAT3 minimums, which is 00 with this aircraft. If you have land 3 enunciated. Okay, just coming up on the hold, and then we'll load up the approach for the ILS. So I'll see you back here in a few minutes. I'll bring the weather down, and then we'll load up the ILS and cancel the hold here, and then we'll start flying the ILS approach.
25.
Okay, we're back in the hold here, and the fog has rolled in. And we are going to go back, and we're just going to do our after takeoff checklist. So if you just go down to the normal menu here, and we can redo the after takeoff checklist. So gear is up, flaps are up, anti-ice as required, and spoilers down, so that's good. And next will be descent. We'll get that out of the way. So auto brake is still set for 2 because we didn't land. Anti-ice is good. Altimeters are now set for 2992 with this weather, so that's good. And landing lights and seatbelts are good, so that's good. We just got our, we'll clear these out because we're going to redo them again. So that's our landing checklist. So now we're in the hold, and we need to load the approach with the arc transition. So go down to the arrival departure page, and we are now going to select the ILS right, and we're going to do the Delta 332 mic transition. We'll execute that. Back to the legs, we'll check that. That looks Delta 332 mic. That should have the arc, and if we zoom out, we should see that. So there's our arc transitioning into the ILS. So we'll just verify all these waypoints are good. Yeah, 240 mic, intercept, Lengu 3000 or above, Ergus is the FAF, runway 5, and then missed approach to MRAG, so that looks good. You can see IAA, which is the idents, and course 051 is set, so that is good, and you can verify that in your RadNav page too. So we have 10.3, which is the correct frequency, and course 051 is set. That's good. So the approach is good. Let's say we're cleared now to direct 332 mic, maintain 3000, and we're clear for the ILS CAT3 into Zealand. So we'll select that, bring it to the top, see our planned route shows up, can execute that. We're in LNAV, and I'm just going to go light level change, and we'll keep speed window open at 220 knots. Okay, so the approach as we're heading in here. So the approach, the frequency and IAA is identified as good. Course is 051. The FAF is at 1630 feet, which is at 5 DME. So there. Minimums, this is it's going to be 00, so there's no minimums for the CAT3. Runway elevations 15 feet. This approach to track 051 to MRAG at 3,000 feet. That looks good. So we're coming in on the arc. We can descend down to 3,000 feet, which we're at now, and then we fly the arc at 3,000. Then we intercept at about 9 miles, and then fly the approach down from there. Okay, so that looks good. Altimeter is set, so let's go. Descent and approach checklist is complete, so we just have our landing checklist to go. So we got a ways to go till we get in here. You can see we have no path right now. We'll get a path as soon as we get here, but let's see a top of descent marker there because it thinks we're at 6,000 feet. Our path is based on, because we had a cruise altitude of 6,000 feet maybe, but yeah, we're at 3,000. We're just in level change right now. We're alt hold, so I'll check in with you when we get a little closer on the arc here, and then we'll transition to the ILS approach. Actually, I'm gonna just turn off my landing lights because you don't want them on for this kind of weather if we're doing a CAT3 approach. Okay, I'll see you just when we make a turn to final there in a few minutes. Okay, we're just on the arc here. It's flying the arc nicely. Does a great job. The radius is, it flies these radius turns really nicely. I've slowed down to, I got my flaps 5 out, and I've slowed down to the bug speed. So I'm a flight level change, so we're alt hold, so the speed when it's open, I just set that myself. If you were in VNAV, it would, if you select flap 5, it would auto bug flap 5 and slow down. And it would stay in VNAV until you captured the ILS and glide slope, and then the speed window would open, then you'd have to manually put in your speed yourself. So either way, it doesn't matter. So the HUD, turn down the brightness a little bit now. It's pretty, want it to obscure the runway so you can see just the brightness here. It's nice. Turn it up a little bit. So the HUD we're going to use, and what I'm going to do is keep this mode on, but there's two modes for the HUD. There's a declutter mode, so there's a switch here on your yoke, which I keep it in this mode until I'm basically landing checklist is complete and I'm already at my ref speed, and then what I'm going to do is I go to a declutter mode, which gets rid of some of the HUD information and kind of cleans it up a little bit, makes it easier to see the runway. So this switch up here is declutter mode, and you can see your speed tape, your altitude tape goes, you lose some information. Here's your barrel altitude now, your rad alt's still there. You got your altimeter, you got your ground speed. This is your bugged airspeed. You got your actual airspeed here, you got your bugged altitude, you got your actual barrel altitude. So it just gets rid of a lot of information. And we're going to fly we'll have our localizer come here in. There's our glide slope, or sorry, our localizer. Here's our glide slope cue, and they should come in to view there. So yeah, I usually keep it just so it makes it easier to bug the speeds, because I like to have my speed tape to bug the speeds as I'm decelerating. So I'll go back to the normal mode, and as I decelerate, once I get the landing checklist done, then I'll go to declutter mode. And at about, I think it's about 400 feet, you should get a runway indication where the outline of the runway will show up here on the HUD as well. Okay, so we're just about to make our turn on the final. Oops, I kicked the HUD up there. Just about to make our turn on the final, so I'm going to arm the approach. And there's a bug. It doesn't, see, the arm approach light doesn't come on, so that light should be on. And you can see it does arm the approach, so we got localizer or glide slope arm, so that's good. And you can see you have your FMA up here as well, so localizer, glide slope arm. So I'll just stay up on the HUD, and we'll focus on the HUD for this landing, because you definitely want to do CAT3 landing with the HUD on. Okay, you can see our localizer glide slopes are alive there. I'm going to get some more flap out. Flap 15, and I'll just bug my flap speed for that. So dial back to flap 15. And glide slope's coming up. I'm going to get gear down, flap 20. And I'll just bug my flap 20 speed. And loc and glide slope are captured, looking good. And you can see we're a little fast here. This means we're fast, but the throttle is decreased to make that correction there. So the auto throttle goes below this line, shows a decrease in thrust to correct for this slight overspeed here. So as we get back on speed, the thrust comes back up to a normal position. Okay, so it looks good. Let's get our flaps out to full. We'll set our target speed of 5 knots above ref, which is 43. Target, and we'll do the landing checklist. So landing gear is down, speed brake lever is, get that armed. And flaps are set, so landing checklist is complete. And we can just do a recall. And recall, and we just have speed brake arm, auto brake 2, seat belts are on. That's good. Okay, so we're looking good. And now I've fully configured. I'll probably declutter the HUD at this time. And you can see it just cleans it up a little bit more. And now we'll focus on the outside of the HUD. So there's our DME. There's our barrel alt, rad alt, ground speed, everything's looking good. At about 1,500 feet above ground, we should see land 3 arm, and land 3 indicated means all 3 autopilots are functioning. We can do a CAT3 Autoland approach, and we should see flare and rollout arm as well up here. There we go, land 3, flare, rollout arm. That's good. And I think it's about 400 feet where you see the runway outline of the runway will come into view here as well. And we just let this plane land itself. And you'll see right at the last minute, I got this set down to very low visibility, right to the ground, and we'll see the lights just as we're coming into the flare here. So we're at 1,000 feet, check, set missed approach altitude. So our missed approach altitude, 3,000 feet is set. Everything's looking good. Auto throttle's doing a pretty good job. First time I flew it, it was kind of really chasing. It must have been gusty winds or something, but it's doing a much better job today. When we enter the flare, we should see these actually, they're armed right now. We should see these active when we're in the flare. It's 500 feet. You'll also notice when we get on the ground, there will be an auto brake. Oh, there's the runway right there. So that was, 350, 400 feet. So that's the outline of the runway, and we're shooting right for we're on the 3-degree glide path here, a 3-degree glide angle. And you can just start to see the lights starting to come up here. 100 feet. There's the runway just starting to come in.
50.
Got
40,
flare armed.
30. 20. 10.
And rollout arm. Auto brake's coming on. And you should get your brake indication coming up. I got auto brake 2 set. It should come up to match auto brake 2. I'll manually brake and you can see it come up. We got reverse. Yeah, so the auto brake's not doing a great job there, but okay, 60 knots. Disarm the auto brake. Brakes down. And welcome to New Zealand. That was a nice approach. Yeah, so basically when the auto brake 2 setting, you should see this indicator go right near the auto brake 2 setting. And if it doesn't, then you have to manually brake yourself. So I guess the auto brake is not 100% working correctly, I guess is the word. But anyway, seem to do a pretty good job. I'll kill the autopilot now because it's on the rollout. Make sure the auto throttle is off. We'll just taxi clear the runway. Yeah, so most things are modeled very well on this airplane, I would say. Very flyable now. I have no hesitation about taking this off of VATSIM flight at all. There's a few little quirks here and there, but for the most part, holds, missed approaches, all the approaches are doable. Things are not exactly the way I do them. I've done them in the past for the RNP approaches, but the IAN approaches work really good. The ILS is good. The Autoland, all this stuff works fabulous. So I definitely think this airplane's coming along really well. So I can't wait to see the final version when the final beta or final release is out. Okay, so we'll just stop clear of the runway. I'll set the parking brake. I'll get rid of the HUD here. And we'll bring our flaps up. Speed brake is down. Auto brake is off. We'll get rid of our flight directors, auto throttle. Get our APU on. Looks good. We'll get our taxi light on, strobe light off. And we would taxi back to the gate. It's kind of really low vis here. I'm not going to bother taxiing in. See that next time. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyable plane to fly now compared to the original release of the Asobo aircraft. Great job for working title. Coming along great. Can't wait to see the final version. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Another look at the great add-on for the sim. Nice thing about this, it's available to Xbox users, PC users, anybody who owns the deluxe version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. You'll have access to this when it's released in the final version. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, take time, hit that like button. Sign up for notifications. Subscribe. And yeah, let me know if you have any comments, let me know, and glad to answer them if I can. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time on the Bandit Flight Simulator channel. Take care. Bandit out.